Hey everyone, this video is the class review video for Class 7 of my fall film scoring class at the Copeland School of Music. I'm assigning the first bit of film for the students to score, and as part of that process, I'm using free and stock sounds, not expensive samples from Spitfire, Cine Samples, and all the like, because this is typically what the students have available to them now in their own setups. So by me showing them that it's possible to get a convincing score out of these cheap, inexpensive samples, it hopefully will inspire them. So anyway, I hope that you'll find this enjoyable. I do spend about an hour and a half and I score a 60-second film. It's the trailer for Loving Vincent, which I've used before, and hopefully you'll get something out of this. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, leave any comments down below, and let's get right into it. We're actually going to get started on scoring our first assignment today. And then as the weeks go by, we'll continue studying other scores and stuff like that. But I wanted to get started today, and I'm just going to dive right in. People will get here late. They'll have to watch the review video. So last week, or a couple of weeks ago, I played you this Loving Vincent trailer. And I seem if I make things a little smaller, certain things don't get blocked, certain things do. So we've watched this. And I'm going to want you to score this. This is a 60 seconds long. And I'm going to set things up and make choices for you that will stop you from having to make choices and hopefully make the assignment a little bit easier for you. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go through and you're going to want to make your spotting session. Now, I've put everything on this. This is way too much information, I'm going to tell you right now. But I did it. I have it there, and I'll be making choices with this. I'll be making choices as to which things I'm going to emphasize with the score. Now, the good thing about this, two good things about scoring this, three good things. It's an actual real piece of film. There's no dialogue. There's no sound effects. And it's only 60 seconds long, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Now, here's the assignment. So the first draft is going to be due in 2 weeks from today, and the final one is going to be due in 3 weeks from today. There's not going to be a class on 11/2, but you're going to hand it in. I have a doctor's appointment that morning, and I'm not going to be up for teaching that day, and that's the only day they had available between when I made the appointment and sometime in December. So it's just a routine, something I have to go in for. It's nothing to worry about. And so, but I'm going to want the first draft that day. I'll be able to look at it when, at some point. I'll be feeling better at some point during the day. Anyway, so you're going to take the Loving Vincent trailer and complete a score with it. Well, actually, no. I'm going to have to, this is bad. Let me redo this. Hold on a second. I'll have to re-upload it too. Follow the steps that we're going to go over today with spotting notes, which we've gone over in the past, but we'll go over it. Adding markers for DAW and spotting notes, music outline. I'm not going to show you something to do in Sibelius because nobody in this class works in Sibelius. You'll have to do some research to see how to import a film into your DAW and how to set up markers or memory locations in Pro Tools. So I've got a couple of links for you here. Adding a movie to Logic Pro, adding a movie to GarageBand, and for Peter, adding a movie to Finale. Okay, I'm going to show you how to add a movie into Pro Tools for those of you that are using Pro Tools today. The film is 24 frames per second, so set up your software with that frame rate. I'll show you how to do that in Pro Tools. And you're going to use either 60 beats a minute, 90 beats a minute, or 120 beats per minute as your tempo, and your tempo is going to be solid the whole way through. So you'll choose one of those three, and we'll go over that, what the different feel is for each of those different tempi. The first draft is due on 11/2 as an MP3 uploaded to here, right? You should be able to open this up right into this folder here. Okay, so don't worry about this. The final version will be the film with music. I'll show you a little bit more about that later. We've got a few weeks for that. So anyway, have fun with this. So this is up. Let me replace it in our class folder. And I'll send out an email to everybody at the end of the class with this, with this folder so you can download the material. As far as the ensemble, I'm choosing this for you, and we're going to go over all this today. Some of you know this, but the rest of you don't. So I'm going to teach you a few things. So you're going to use one flute, one oboe, one clarinet. You're going to use harp, celeste, which is a bell-like keyboard, violin long, short, and pizzicato, cello long, short, and pizzicato. That's pizzicato is when they're plucking the string with their right hand, and bass pizzicato. You can use, if you're using Pro Tools, you can use Expand, but you can also, which I would hope you would do, is download the BBC Discover from Spitfire Audio, which I had mentioned earlier in the semester. It's free. It's a very good student grade software. It's not professional. The Discover version is not professional for a lot of reasons, but it's a step up from what you would find in most DAWs. Except there is one problem with it, which I'll talk about in a second. So I'm going to show you, most of you here know how to use Pro Tools. So I'm going to show you what I've already set up the session here. Let me save this and close this out. And I'm going to open up a new session, and I'm going to show you some steps. So the first thing is make a master folder that has everything in it. And if you notice, inside the master folder, I've got the movie, I've got my Pro Tools session, and I've got just all the PDFs, my spotting notes, the orchestra, and the assignment. So everything is in one container, right? That's the first thing. So just for right now, though, I'm going to do new, and this will be Vincent. I'm going to close out of this, but I want to show you a few things. Now, film is typically set up at 48K for your sample rate. So if you want to do that, that'd probably be a good idea. 44.1, you just switch it to 48K. Create, just for right now, I'm going to store this on my desktop. Okay, so I said that the film was 24 frames per second. I'm going to go to my setup here. And in Pro Tools, you're going to go to your session setup. Let me zoom in on that a little. Session setup. And what I've done is I've set the session start at 59 minutes, 56 seconds, and no frames. So you just type that in, 59, then 56, and then 0. You set your time cone rate to 24 frames per second. Okay. Then you import the video right there. And here's my Loving Vincent trailer. I'm going to open that. And new track selection. There's no audio, so you don't have to worry about this, but session start for right now. Okay? Great. Now, what I've done with Pro Tools is I've set it up so that I can have two counters open. And the way that you do that is you go to this downward facing triangle and you show the sub counter, and then you set that up to show time code. And it shows you that the beginning of the session is 59:56, which is what you set up in the session setup window. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in 1 hour, just like that. And then I'm going to go to my event time operations. I've showed you guys how to do this move song start. And I'm going to renumber that to measure 1. And then I'm going to use, now I'm going to teach you something else in Pro Tools that I haven't taught you guys yet. So if I select spot mode, right, up here, let me also turn the original sound on. Spot mode in Pro Tools, which is this right here. And I use the grabber tool. And I click right here on the video. We're going to get a new dialog. And we're going to set our start to 1 hour, just like that. And then it moved the video to that spot. And then we can go back to our typical grid mode that we work in. And then hold down Option and unselect that. Okay? So that's how you set up this. And then you could set up your tempo. If you want 90, you just type in 90. And notice that this doesn't move. Okay? Or if you want 60, whoops, you pop that in also, but this still starts at 1 hour. Now, let me show you something about doing markers in Pro Tools. If I switch this out so that the top one is in time code, right? And then let's say I want to put a marker right there at 2 seconds. I hit enter on my alphanumeric keyboard, and that brings up a memory location. You'll notice that the time properties reference is absolute. All right, it's not bar and beat. You want to make sure that when you're doing this in film, before you do anything, you want it to your marker to always be absolute, so that it's not tied down to a tempo. It will always be at this time code of 1 hour and 2 seconds. So watch. If I change the tempo, let's go back to bars and beats, and we see that this hit is at bar 1, beat 3. If I change the tempo to 120, whoops, 120, we'll see now that it's at bar 2, but it's still at 2 seconds in. So the time code doesn't change where that hit is. So that hit will always be locked to the picture and not to the music tempo. All right, so let me close this out. And let me open up the one that I've set up. Give it a second. It's loading in these samples. This is the one thing about the Discover library. It's very slow to load in. I will say that compared to some of my other sample libraries. Now, in Pro Tools, the movie might come out looking like this, right? And that takes up all of your screen. You can resize this either by going to the lower right-hand corner and dragging. Really? It's playing games with me today. Or you can right-click on here and, well, hold on a second. And make it quarter size, and then you can fit it here. One nice thing about Logic is it's got a little window in the corner up here that you could have the movie that just doesn't move. It doesn't get in the way of everything. That'd be nice if Pro Tools had that. Yeah. Okay. So that's up here. And what I did was I put in all of these. You could see that they're all in there. And basically the way I work that is that oops, wrong one. I wrote this out. And what I did was, let's see, time code. Okay, great. So let's see, let me zoom in a little bit on this and move this over here so you could see everything. All right, so I wrote this all out, and unfortunately, I made a mistake when I made this film. And I didn't put 1 hour in front of the film. It starts at 000000, but I want you to start at 1 hour. So don't worry about the first 2 digits for this assignment. But I'd have to download another version of this and redo the time code thing, which I haven't had time to do. So let's say I've got now time code as my main part of my counter. My first thing is at 3 seconds and 21 frames. So I type in 3 and then 21, and that gets me to my first scene change. And it's basically train over river. So then if I hit enter, a memory location comes up and it says absolute. And then you would just type in whatever it is you wanted to have. I've already got a memory location there. So I'm going to cancel that, and I'm going to show you what I did. So I just wrote train over river, just like that. Now, let me show you another thing that's really cool about Pro Tools, and I'm not sure in other DAW. So if you go here and you open up your memory locations window, right? And you could leave this over here. I have a couple of screens, which makes it really easy to do this stuff. You could see right here that you could see all your memory locations, right? And there's a number next to them. And if you've done this in order, this should let you easily navigate around to different parts of your film. So let's say I wanted to see man smoking, right? There's a number 5 here. So if I hit period 5 period, it goes to the man smoking. Now I have that a little early, but that's okay. Let me just move this over. There we go. And that's another thing. You can drag these around just by clicking and dragging. So let's say I wanted to go to B and W. I could either click there, or I could dial dot 8 dot, and it goes there. So let me show you how I'm doing that. So on this keyboard here, now if you've got a laptop, you have to do it this way. Yeah, you can do it that way as well. So the period here, and then type in your numbers up here. But I have the extended keyboard here, and then that helps me to navigate around. All right. So let's go here. And actually here and back to here. Okay, so the way I've set this session up, let me put this back up here so it's out of the way. Is I've got it set up like an orchestra, right? So you got flute, oboe, and clarinet. Those are your 3 woodwinds. Then I've got my marimba, my harp, and my celeste. And then I've got 3 tracks of violins. I've got my long violins, my short violins, my pizzicato violins. I've got long cello, short cello, and pizzicato cello, and I've got bass pizzicato. What I've also done is I've grouped the woodwinds into their own group, and then I've got a VCA, which some of you know how to do, set up for my winds so that I can solo them if I want. I've done the same thing with my pitched percussion, the marimba, harp, and the celeste, and the same thing with my strings. And this way, if I just want to hear what one particular group is doing, I can do that, right? And things are all color-coded and everything's ready to rock. Let me go back to my bars and beats. All right, so let's look at what instruments I've added. So for flutes, I did not use the BBC Discover, and the reason for that is with the woodwinds, they don't have solo instruments. They have 3 flutes, and I want to have this be more of a chamber ensemble, right? So I'm just using Expand. But let me just show you a couple things I did to make it a little bit better. I added a little bit of release. Let me and let me actually turn off the reverb I've got set up, which I'll show you in a second. Okay, so it comes out of the box like this. Right, and that's very unnatural. So I just turn the release up a little bit. And I play it. And that sounds much more natural. And then I turned off the reverb in here, and I'm sending it through a reverb. Now, this is the one thing that I'm doing that you won't have is I'm not using one of my expensive reverbs. This is something called the LX480 Essentials. I got this a year ago on sale for like $20. And this is it has the same algorithm as the full version, but just less controls. And this is the Lexicon 480 software clone. And that's one of the best reverbs ever made. So I'm using that instead of the Deverb on this that comes with Pro Tools. And that makes it sound a lot better. Now, let me show you guys a few things about the flute. I'm sure that a few of you know this already, but those of you that aren't music majors, let me just show you, and I'll go to this camera here. Now, this is middle C on the piano, right? That's not where the flute sounds best. That's where the alto flute sounds really good. But flute, you really want to stay, you go up to the A here, and then it's C, and then this is the high C, right? You want to stay from A up to E. That's really good. You'll notice that with the expand sounds, they don't have them in the actual ranges of the instrument. Like you could play, like a flute doesn't play here. That's like a bass flute plays there. So you want to stay between that A and that E. And it's most brilliant up in this register here. And then once you start getting above that E, a real flute starts to get a little shrill, but you want to stay there with the flute. Okay, now the oboe is a little bit lower. Remember last week I talked about orchestration and how each one is a choir, like when we were talking about the strings, how the violins were like the top part of the choir. The violas were like the altos and tenors that sort of overlap, and then the cellos were the baritones and the tenors, and then the bass was the low part, right? And they overlap. Some stuff overlaps. So, for example, in the violas, the first viola, the lowest viola note is this pitch here, and the lowest violin note is this pitch here. Well, violas can play up in this register here. Not a problem. That's really beautiful. You don't want to be down by the lower extremes or the higher extremes when you're first writing. You know, you want the viola sounds great in like sort of middle register. So like a fifth above that C up to like, you know, it can play higher. And the violin is the same thing, right? So they overlap a little bit. And the same thing with the oboe, the ranges overlap a little bit, right? So a real oboe, like a real flute goes down to this, the lowest note on the flute is this C. But if that's not really great when you're writing for ensembles. You would have an alto flute to make that sound, and you would just forget about writing for those lower pitches on the flute for now. And you don't want to be too high on the flute. Same thing with the oboe. The oboe, real oboe can go down to this B flat, I think, but you want to stay basically from this F up to this, like, you know, just right you could play these notes, but on a real oboe, the higher notes from up to this high C, which is 2 octaves above middle C, can get a little shrill. So you want to stay maybe to this G, F, like down to this F above middle C, somewhere in that register. So you'll see that, the flute overlaps quite a bit with the oboe, even though right? And if you wanted to hear lower notes on the oboe, you would have it be for its sister or instrument, the English horn. All right, so they overlap. Now, the last one that we're using, and that's also in Expand 2, and I did the same thing with that with the release. And actually, what you can do is once you get the flute correct, when you open up the next version of Expand, let me show you this. Instead of going from the menu here, you would go from the menu here, and you would just load your oboe in from here. So in other words, I just Option, click dragged. So I have the same instrument here, it's flute, right? As the same as on track 1. And if I click here and go to brass and woodwinds and just find my my oboe, all this stuff stays the same. So I've done that one edit where I worked on the release to make it sound better. It works well with the oboe as well. So now clarinet 2 has the oboe, and I did the same, oboe, instrument 2 has the oboe. And now the clarinet, right? The clarinet, it's interesting because it goes lower. So it can go down into this register here, and this is called the Shalamu register down here. But you, again, so you want to stay like just a little bit below C, this G, F, and you go up to maybe this C above middle C. So the clarinet will be down in this register, the oboe will be in this register, and the flute will be up in this register. And they overlap. But don't go to the extremes for your first time through. All right, now let's get back to here. And so we're using the Discover Orchestra and the marimbas here. And I have the reverb on both the oboe and the clarinet. But notice on this one, the marimba, I don't have any reverb because they've recorded this in a hall and it's got reverb baked into the sound. And the reason why I picked that lexicon is it's very close in sound, not exact. So I've got that marimba, and then I've got the harp, and this is also BBC Discover, right? And then the celeste, which is this one here. So with the celeste, you'll see it goes down to here, but it's interesting because it's and if you want to double it with the harp, it's a beautiful sound. Okay. And this, with the harp too, right? Things that are nice about the harp is you'll see that I'm playing, this is the range of the harp. So these BBC Discovers are actually the range of the instrument. So the harp has some really low notes, and that is really great to double with the bass pizzicato. Whoops, sorry, hold on. So there's the harp, and then I've got the bass. So that's a little trick that you can do if you like. But the harp is really nice, I think, for a piece like this instead of a piano, right? And so maybe in the mid-range here. It's beautiful. There's, all these dreamy textures that you can do up here with the harp, but I think for this piece, maybe stay in the mid-range. So then, now the thing with the violins is that I've got 3 different articulations. I've got longs. Now this, you can't adjust this release. It would be nice to have a little release on this. And you can play two or three notes at a time. Then for the short violins, oh, hold on a second. Really? Why is it not playing? Well, the pizzicatos are working. I'll have to figure that out because I was going to use that. So then this is my cello. Long. Cello short. Cello pizzicatos. And these are all done in the BBC orchestra, right? It's very easy. Just choose the articulation right here. Let's just see about why there's no spiccato on the violins. All right, so let's do violin 2 and oh, let's go back here. Interesting. Oh, that's because there's nothing assigned to it. Oh, idiot. I don't know why that happened. So let's go back to violin 1. Great. Okay, so before you write, get all this set up before you do any writing, right? Get your everything set up with your session. Get everything set up with your markers. Figure out which tempo you're going to write to. Organize. So flute, oboe, clarinet, marimba, harp, celeste, violin, 3 violin tracks, 3 cello tracks, and a bass track. Now, I did put a piano track in here as a reference because what maybe I want to do is I want to write to piano and record the piano part and then orchestrate from that. I've showed you in Audio MIDI 1, we worked on that, right? Remember that we did that way back in Audio MIDI 1. So you can do that technique if you'd like. But I'm going to write for the instruments as we go along. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move this here and I'm going to make it a little bigger. Half size. And then I'm going to make the click track play while I'm listening. So that's set up. And I'm going to start from the top and I'm going to watch the film at 90 beats a minute. I'm going to see how it feels. All right, so that's at 90. Let's make it 60 and take a listen. So that was interesting. There seemed to be more things that hit on the downbeat there, or a little bit after the downbeat. So let's try 120. That'll be similar because it's twice as fast. Twice as fast. Let's take a watch. Yes, Lucas, only bass with pizzicato. Correct. I'm making some limitations. For some people it'll be liberating, and for some people they'll have to learn how to work around it. Okay, so does anybody have an idea as to which one of those tempos they preferred? 60, 90, or 120? So, Lucas, that's you with 120? So it's interesting. I could write something to any of those tempos. Now, let's say you're at 60 beats per minute, right? Now, it's kind of plodding, right? But that's quarter notes. So if I were to like, so you see that the feel totally changes depending upon the amount of activity between each beat that you write. So I was writing 16th notes there. Now, if you're writing at 120 beats per minute, the same thing. But for me, right, it feels a little bit more stiff, the same figure at 120 beats per minute, when you've got a large space between each beat and you have a few notes in there. You have a little bit more freedom when you're phrasing and playing things, right? So if the tempo's right, you can emphasize things a little bit differently when you've got a lot of space between each beat. So in some respects, writing at 120 beats per minute it seems energetic when you're watching it with the click track. But the thing is then when you have slower bits to write, because you don't want to have something be at one pace through the whole bit, that becomes not quite as versatile a tempo. If you're writing at a slower tempo and you write faster note values, then when it comes time to write something slower, if you're not changing tempo, you'll have a little bit more flexibility to do that. Does that make any sense to anybody? Do you understand what I'm getting at there? So I'm just going to start writing, and I'll annotate as I go along. And we'll see how far we get. So I kind of like that, starting off with the harp. So I'm going to keep that going. So I'm going to start at 0, give myself 1 bar to count in. And I've got an idea. I want to show you something with the harp. I'm going to play something, and then I'm going to edit it and change the way it feels a little bit. All right. Oh, wait, that's 100. I want to do it at 60. I'm going to work at 60. You guys pick the tempo you want. Don't do just because I'm doing 60, you're doing 60. All right. All right. So I kind of like that. So my rhythm's a little off, so I'm just going to do a little bit of quantizing. So at 16th notes, I'm just going to make the strength be like 90%, just to clean it up just a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to merge that, merge paste, which is Option M, onto the marimba track, right? And then I'm going to go and I'm going to open up my MIDI editor here. Oh, let me get my grid going here. And I'm going to get rid of some notes. So I'm going to get rid of all these notes. I'm using the grabber tool and just lassoing all those notes and getting rid of them. Right? I don't need to have this play while I'm playing anymore. Okay, so I don't like this last one, so I'm going to get rid of that. And I don't like this one either. So you see this already, it's taking shape. You know, I'm just orchestrating this right from that one bit. Bop bop bum. So Option. Let's see. Okay, so now there's a scale that's going up, right? So let me do this. I'm in the key of C right now with an F sharp, so that's Lydian. So the way I'm moving those is I'm highlighting it and I'm pushing the upward arrow here, and that's moving those up. And then if I hit this arrow, it'll go to the next note. Let me listen to what I've got so far. So now I've got this scale going on the offbeat. Okay, so it's going on a little bit too long. Just saw that the movie changed a little bit in a way there that I wasn't catching, but I'm not worried about that yet. So let me just take another listen to this. Okay, so the last couple of notes I'm going to cut out, but I'm not worried about that now. So I've got my bass. Okay, so I'm sorry, I don't have the screen. Yeah, I'm not that worried about that, Lucas, because I can always move that around. It's not a problem that they've got a little delay. That's all the Spitfires does, and you have to just, you can do that in Pro. I'm sure you could do that in Cubase, but in Pro Tools, to make things move a little bit more, you just go to real-time properties and you play around with the delay over here. So that's not a problem. I'm not that worried about that right now. I'm getting everything in here, and I'm going to shape it, right? So it's like you got clay on the wheel, and then you're shaping it. So let's see, bass pits. I think I'm going to start with the cello pits. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to do something like that, right? And notice how I'm not playing every beat with this. I'm just doing a little in between kind of thing. Two. Chick, 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 chick. So that I can edit at the end there. Right, so this note here, I'm just going to change this. And then I'm just going to do that quick quantize. So let's... Here we go. Let's get this a little bit cleaner. Okay, so now as you're writing, edit, right? So I'm going to use my line, and these are too harsh, so I'm going to bring the velocities down on these. Edit as you're, so it's like you're mixing while you're writing. You want this to sound good as you're working. See that? They were too loud. I made them softer with the velocity. Dee da da. And then I'm going to have to change. I'm going to leave that for now. I might change that. Okay, great. So now let's take a look at what we've got. Okay, so right here where the train changes, I'm going to add a... I think I might just add a bass note there instead of a cello. Yeah, okay. Great. So let's go back and edit this. And it's way, way, way too loud. And one thing I like to do is I like to edit my durations. And I'm going to make these all the same. I'm going to make them 480 for these short notes, because this way that looks cleaner for me. You know, it doesn't change the sound. Yeah, I could go for that. And let's see. And then I'm going to add a clarinet with the bass up higher. Okay, we're going to have to edit that a little, right? So, first of all, two things. Velocity gives you the attack, and then we're going to do some volume work. Let's do this. Doesn't have to be the same pitch. And now we're going to do some MIDI expression, right? We went over this, and we're going to make this live a little bit. So you can draw this in. Let me show you how to do that. I've gone over this with you, and then it'll get softer at the end here. All right, that's a little too soft. Okay, so that's beginning. And now save. Make sure you're saving as you're going along. Okay, so right here, I'm thinking here, I'm going to copy what's in the harp, and I'm going to merge paste it onto the celeste, and then I'm going to delete it on the harp. Okay, and that's too low, so I'm going to transpose that up an octave. Great. And then I think that this last measure I'm going to do away with completely. So that I know that I had something that I worked on with that upward scale, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm not crazy about it. Let me just lose this last note here. All right. And now, let's see. Yeah, so see how I've just completely, the scene changes and I change the texture to, oops, sorry, hold on. Overdub. So I'm using MIDI merge right now, so I don't have to do punch and recording. I can just put this anywhere and start playing when I need to. 2, 3, 4. All right. And right, I taught you guys MIDI merge in Pro Tools. That basically is this control right here. And what that does is it lets you record without erasing what you've already played. So if I want to start playing here, I could do pre-roll like this, but that's more things that I have to click. If I just do MIDI merge and start recording there, and I'm ready to play, and then I play right here, it's recording all along. So let me show you that again. So let me undo that recording. So I've got my playback head at 2, and I want to come in at 3. 1. See, it's how it's recording now, but nothing's getting erased. I actually like that take better. And what I'm going to do with the celeste is I'm going to bring down the velocity to make it a little softer. And this would be a nice time to get a flute to come in. Let me try that. Okay, great. So I like that. And notice how I didn't play right on the downbeat. right? If I go 1, 3, and 4, and 1. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go and we're going to edit this a little bit too. First thing we'll do is we'll get our velocities cleaned up. I want to make sure that the flute sound is very consistent, so I'm just going to make them all the same, and then I'm going to control the dynamics with expression. So I'm going to go up, and then I want to fade out that last note. And I want it to get out right as the picture change. Okay, great. Save. Now, in the more expensive, well, let's put it this way. When a real person plays an instrument, they not only control how loud and how soft the sound is, but when they're playing softer, the timbre changes. There are less overtones that you're hearing. And so typically a softer sound can be a little bit darker. Now, these libraries that we have here don't really have that. In other words, they will sample something that's very soft, something that's moderately soft, the same pitch, moderately soft, the same pitch, moderately loud, the same pitch loud, and the same pitch very loud. And they would have all of those samples living on the same note on the keyboard. And you would, depending upon how you manipulated the certain controllers, you can, as a note is being held out, you can crossfade between those different dynamic layers. So let me show you what I mean. Here, just long cello, right? So I've got my controller set up here, and you don't need one of these things. So this does the mod wheel, right? And what the mod wheel is set up to do in these libraries is go through all the dynamic layers. So if I'm holding a note on the cello, and then I move the mod wheel down, you see that it gets darker? And then it gets brighter, not just louder and softer. You're hearing the loop there? That's what that clicking is. So what we can do, if we know technology, is we can simulate that in Pro Tools, right? So if we want to get, or in Logic, or in Cubase, or in Reaper, or GarageBand even, and anybody venture a guess how we can change the overtones of a sound, get rid of some of the higher overtones? EQ, and that's good, Lucas. What kind of EQ? One in particular that we can use very simply to achieve great effect. So if you want to make that a little darker, set up a low-pass filter and go right up in Pro Tools. You would go right up to this automation thing. You'd click on this, and you'd add the frequency. And I've gone over this. All of you that have taken Audio MIDI 2 and Audio MIDI 1, we've gone over this. So I've added frequency. And then what I can do is I can go here and EQ 3 band frequency. I can then do something where it gets brighter as it goes up, and then darker, and maybe it'll stay the same. And as that note is fading out, it'll get darker. This might be this might be too much, but let's take a listen. You see how it not just got softer, but it also got darker, right? So this is how you can take a cheap library like Expand, and you can literally expand its capabilities. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it's a little too dark. So I'm going to go up here, it's pretty much full frequency. And then on this note, just go down a little bit. So let's try this now. That's a little better. Let me just turn that click on and see where things are happening. So I'm going to leave the click on and I'll just mute it when I don't want to hear it. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So he comes in. 1, 2, 3, boom. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, and this might be a little bit, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to make that a measure of 2, 4, right? And then what'll happen is 1, 2, 1, right? It's a little bit early, so maybe I'll make that 3, 4. And this is something I want to tell you is that you never, from my personal opinion, you don't have to get the picture changes exactly right. You can, that's one thing. But what you don't absolutely want to do, in my opinion, is come in early unless that's something that you and the director have discovered. It makes things really edgy, and it feels to me like you're telling the audience what they should be feeling instead of the music being part of it. So in other words, if something comes in a couple of frames late, it feels more natural to me than if it comes in a couple of frames early, and you can really tell a difference. So for this assignment, since this is your first assignment, don't worry about getting things exactly when the picture changes. Just try to write a good piece of music. If it's a little bit off, that's okay. You know, if it's a half a beat late, don't worry about that. You can fine tune that down the road. Just this is going to be challenging for all of you, except Lucas took this class last year, so he's done this already, which is one reason why I'm changing the ensemble, because this makes it a different assignment for him and for everybody. So don't worry about. Try your best. Get things close. All right. This is your first time. Just do the best you can. All right, so we got 1, 2, 3, boom, right? Great. And there's our 4, 4 time again, right? So right at the, we'll go back to 4, 4 at measure 5. Now, we've taken away 1 beat. That means down the line, there were a couple of things that landed right on the downbeat. Now they're going to land a beat earlier than the downbeat. So we may have to readjust that. Do you understand what I mean? In other words, if something happens on beat, on the downbeat of measure 4, right? That's 3 measures on the downbeat of measure 5. That's 4 measures of 4, 4. That's 16 beats. If in measure 2 something happens on beat 4 and you make measure 2 a part of 3, that means the next measure starts a beat early and you'll get to that other hit point at a different part of the bar. So you'll have to pick that up. We'll go over that, and it'll be a little bit easier to show it to you rather than to explain it to you. All right. Okay, so he's just sitting there, so I can do, let's see what we've got here. Something like that. No. Let's try that. So see, that's fine. Right there. Let's see what we got here. One, 2, 3, 4. Right, so that actually will be another measure of 3/4. So let me get rid of that. So we got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. And then measure 6. That's where our 4/4 will start probably. So let's add that in. So we've got 2 measures of 3. All right, so this seems complicated for you guys, right? But I'm just showing you how I would work with this. One, 2, 3. So that's my violin pizzicatos, right? And just make those a little bit. Put this back up here. So I'm changing textures, right? When I change second, 2, 3. Good. And what might be nice is to take that cello line, right? I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to double, we haven't had the oboe yet, so I'm going to merge paste it there, but it's too low for the oboe. So I'm going to transpose that up 2 octaves, actually, I think. We'll see. Whoops, it's in the wrong measure. Hey, mouse skills. My mouse skills are getting really bad in my old age. And the reason I merge paste here instead of just regular pasting is when I merge paste, you can see the clip retains the name of the track header. And we went over that in audio MIDI classes. Okay. So let's take it back from the top. Yeah, I think that that solo clarinet is bothering me, so I'm going to merge that with the celeste, and then I'm going to bring the velocity on the celeste way down. So a lot of times with these sampled instruments, what I tend to do is a lot of doublings in my orchestrations, and what that does is it sort of masks up some of the fact that it's a sample. So I just want there to be like a little bit of a sheen around that clarinet. So let me solo the clarinet. Let me turn off the click track. So this is the clarinet here by itself. And then when I add just that touch of celeste, there's just a tiny little sheen and attack there. It just makes it better for me. Okay, so I think I'm going to repeat this. Yeah, so let me do this. I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to merge paste it there. One, two, three, hand. Right? You see where the hand comes in? That to me is more interesting than the picture change. One, two, that's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Adding bass. Hold on. Let me get a little more counting. 1, 2, 3. Right? Now, you guys aren't going to work this fast. Don't worry about that. All right, let's listen to it back from the top and make my grid bigger here. Here we go. So now you notice that the first time through, I doubled the cello with the oboe, and I think the second time through, I'm going to do it with the flute. I'm going to transpose that up. I might transpose that up 3 octaves. Let's see. Oh, I've got my automation and my volume. So let's get our automation back up because we're going to want this to be very brilliant. And we've also got expression. So let's get that. Yeah. So that's nice because it's sort of like an answer to the oboe, and the oboe's in its register, and the flute's higher. That's sort of the top range that I'd like you to write for the flute. All right, so let's see. And let's go back to the harp because I want to do something that rises up. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, something like that. Let's try that. Let's get our click track up so I can stay in time. 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. I'll worry about that end in a second. Okay, so I'm doing something that's going, one thing is going up, so now maybe something else is going down, and we'll see. There might be a few other little things to add there because we're moving up to that confrontation at the door there. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, great. I might change that last note on the harp. I probably will, but let's just leave that for now. And I'm going to add something with the celeste there, make it a little bit more dreamy. Let's try. Let's see what I can come up with. 2, 3. And we're going to quantize that a little bit just to keep the time a little better. Great, and now we've got a long note on the violin that I'm going to add. Yeah, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this. Okay, so that's boring, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm in overdub mode, and I'm going to use my little controller here to just automate the volume, and then I'm going to automate the low pass filter to make it get brighter and as it goes on. So it'll be just like a regular person playing. So here we go. I want to do that again and start softer. Now, if we open up, sorry, I apologize for not switching. What I did there was, right, if we look here, we look at expression, you see that I did that as it was playing, the note was playing, I just slowly did this like I was on a mixing console, right? So it's always, you can always do it afterwards. You don't need to capture the performance live. And then now let's open this up, and then we're going to automate the frequency, and we're going to add. And this one, you can't use one of those controllers. You'd have to have something that mapped differently using the Huey protocol or Yukon or something like that. I don't get into that in this class. So let's go right here, and we're going to use our pencil, and we're going to select our low pass, and we'll use our pencil, and we'll use the line, and we'll try that and see what that sounds like. So that takes off too much. It's too soft. So you see, like, just that little extra work there changed like the quality of it. It made it sound much more alive, because not only is the sound getting louder, but it's also getting brighter, just like the person when they're applying more pressure on the bow, and they're creating more overtones in there, and they're also vibrating more. So when you're cutting off the high frequencies with the low pass filter, you're also getting rid of some of the vibrato a little bit, and it just makes it much more realistic sounding. Okay, let's clean that end up in the harp. Ask questions as I'm going along. Please feel free to ask questions. All right, so we're going to come in a little bit after the confrontation starts, because right, we're going to start that bit on beat 2. So let's just get rid of this. We don't need that. Ba ba do ba da 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 da. Let me just try something. Here we go. So it's 1 1 da 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 da. Let's go here and let's edit the rest. Let's move this back here. So we'll do a little bit of a harmony with the oboe. Oh, whoops, hold on a sec. Made a mistake. Okay. We got the clarinet. We have to get, we've got the expression down low on the clarinet, so we need to bring that up. So we're at measure. Bring that back up. And also, what's our, on the clarinet, do we have... No, we haven't done any work with this yet. Okay, great. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to use two clarinets instead of one. One more time. Okay, so with this, we're going to use go to our automation, and we're going to make this soft to loud using our automation, right? So I'm just going to, I can make this bigger and just, and let's solo that. Yeah. Cool. Da 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 da. Da 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 ba. All right, let's take it from the top. Okay, so at this point, I think it might be nice, possibly, to reprise something from the opening, you know? So let me copy this harp from the opening. And I'm going to merge it into the celeste. Oops. Let's see. So that's going to start 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's we have another measure of 3, 4 right at measure 8. And then that'll start us right in at the downbeat. And then this will go back to 4, 4. Yeah, that actually kind of works until there. So now you see I'm going to add this from the violins in along with what the cello is, the celeste is playing, which is basically the harp at the beginning. Let's get that click so I'm in time. Oh. One more time. Almost. Great. Now, I just added a clarinet there. And notice what I did with the clarinet starting here. Space. The space is because the clarinetist has to breathe, right? So we're simulating that. And I think that that's going to be a line that's played by... That's a little low for the oboe. It'll still sound fine. We'll try it up there. Okay, so let's add some dynamics to that. So with this, I think I'm just going to do volume. I'm not going to do the EQ automation. Yep. See, just adding that dynamics really enhances what you're doing. And it just takes a couple of extra seconds, you know? Let's see how that works with the cello. So, let's try something else. Interesting. Let's add a little dynamics to that. And you know, that sounds okay. I think I'm going to add, I'm making these choices as I'm going along, right? I'm going to add some additional reverb to that to cover up for the fact that it's not a legato patch. I'm just looking at the film. Now, it's really interesting here, right? Because, let me make this bigger so you can see it a little better. Boy, my machine is acting really weird. So he comes in, he kisses the woman's hand. And this looks like a festive place, but look at that guy. He's got this intense look on his face, and he's just checking things out. And you can tell that he's got something weird, right? So, like, how do you play that, right? What do you do to play that? It's interesting. And then it goes to him here. So the way I think I'm going to play that is the guy walks in. It's a festive thing that's happening there. He kisses the woman's hand because he knows her. He's seen her many times before. He's being dapper or whatever you would want to call, whatever word you want to call it. But what's really happening, he's not the focus. The focus is Vincent. And Vincent is like got all that wild stuff going on in his brain. And it leads to his picture of the back of his head. So that's what I'm going to play. I'm not going to play to the festive part. And I'm going to build to the end. Okay. Mm-hmm. Nope, do not like that. Yeah, I think something like that might be a little bit. Yeah, something like that. Let me just clean up the timing a little bit. Okay, so I like the beginning of that. I can make something out of that. Let's take a look at that there. Okay, so now I've played this in, right? So I can extract parts from that from my other instruments. So violin, I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to merge paste that in the bass track, and then I'm going to delete and transpose. So I've opened this up in the MIDI editor here, right? And I just want those low notes. I don't want all this other stuff. I don't need that in the bass. And you weren't hearing anything when I was editing because that's way too high. So I'll hold Shift and hit the downward. Good. Yeah, we got it. Let me just, before I forget. Interesting, right? right? You see how, you know, I don't know if this is any good. I think it's okay. It's not bad. And for an hour and a half's worth of work, but you see that I'm building and changing, and I'm not catching every little detail when the picture changes, but I am capturing the things that are the most important to me. But what I'm doing is I'm taking this ensemble and I'm using articulations. We went over that last week in the strings. I'm using dynamics, and I'm making sure that I'm writing in the right registers for those instruments like the flute, the oboe, and the clarinet. That in expand, they play the whole keyboard, not in the actual range of the instrument. So, yeah, let's see. Do I need anything else for this? I think I might. Yeah, I know what I'm going to do here. So let me copy this and go to the harp and merge paste. Right? So let me show you guys another little trick, right? So I've got the harp here, and it's doubling the bass. So if I solo that, now that's pretty cool, right? So what we can do is I'm going to leave the first couple free, and then I'm going to highlight these, and if I hold the Option key and the up arrow, it will duplicate and transpose one note. And then I'm going to make chords. So Option, up arrow, and then now just the up arrow. Right? So we've got that. Good. Then right here, same thing. And then right here. So now we've got this little, and then what I can do also with this is edit the velocity so that it's crescendoing. So let's see what that sounds like. I could double that also to start. With my marimba. Okay, so that's too low for the marimba, so let's transpose that up an octave. So let's just listen to the harp, marimba, and the bass pizzicato. Right? So that's pretty cool. So let's do this. Something like that. That's not bad. I'll take that for a fun little moment. But it needs to be edited. Let me clean that up. Oops. You know, I'm not going to clean up the rhythm on that, but this is what I'm going to do here too. Is I'm going to copy all of this, and then I'm going to merge paste this in both the oboe and the clarinet, and then I'm going to have them pyramid in, right? So I'm not sure who's going to be what where. But I think the oboe needs to go down an octave, and the clarinet needs to go down 2 octaves. So I'll transpose both of those down 1 octave. And the clarinet can go down another octave. Okay, now, a couple things. I'm going to go into slip mode, and I'm going to get rid of the oboe here and the clarinet up to here. And then let's just try that and see what that sounds like. I can always undo that. See that, how that builds and with the pyramiding there? And now what we can do is we can use our VCA to do a little volume automation there, right? Remember, I have the VCA controlling the volume of the flute, the clarinet, and the oboe. So we can bring that down a little bit. And what I want to do with the clarinet is, right, I'm going to bring the MIDI, I'm going to bring the expression down in the clarinet a little bit. Because it's a little loud. Let's do our this bit here to do a little dynamics, and then we're going to do a little automation with the filter. We'll see. I might make that a little longer, and I want to fix that first note comes in a little late, so let's fix that. And let's go to our here, and let's go to our frequency, and we're going to make this start off a little darker and crescendo up. A little too much. All right, okay, so here we go. One more time. And let's do this. So that needs to go to the end of measure 16. So let's open these up. And let's bring it down. You know, I could have that loop come in a little bit later, but let me ponder that over. I could always do this on that last chord. I can always adjust that here, and let's say I make the, which I don't really, I can do this because I'm, yeah, you have to ask when you have a fade out like that, do you want there to be a ring out, then it fades out, or do you want it to hit on the fade out, right? And let's do our dynamics on that cello note. And I think that these pizzicatos are coming in a little early, so let's fix that. Oh yeah, they're coming in early, which is bothering me. And actually, let's take that and drop that down an octave. I don't really like that. But we will. We will double that. Remember I said that's a cool sound. Harp and bass. Huh, that might work. Interesting. That's just totally out of time. I'm not even gonna, I'm just gonna get rid of the last note. Yeah. I'm sort of fakely emulating a tremolo on the flute. So let's see if what we can do with that. Sort of like Ennio Morricone on that Spaghetti Western tune. Okay, not bad. Let's just edit that a little. Yeah, it's a little too long, so let's just get rid of... Oops. Get rid of this stuff here. And we'll do a expression. I'm not going to worry about the automation. of the EQ. No, I think I'm good. All right, let's take a take a look from the whole piece. That's, I'd say, pretty good work for an hour and a half, or whatever long it took me to do that. And that would be a good first draft. I'd probably stop right now, walk away, come back in an hour, listen to it, tweak, edit. So I don't expect you guys to be able to do that in an hour. But what I would say is that get started. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to spot the film, make a PDF, and then get the film into whatever software you're working with and set up your markers, however your software does that, and just get that set up. And then decide on the tempo that you want to write at, either 60, 90, or 120. There are pluses and minuses to all of them, right? I've written a different piece every time, but this is the first time I actually made it all the way through scoring this. But I've done this demo before where it's a different piece of music. So I've seen this film hundreds of times at this point, from watching it myself and also grading students' assignments over the last few years. So, get it going, and get your ensemble set up. So get all prepared to work. And if I can work where I'm writing for all the instruments and doing it that way, if you want to write a piece on piano at first, and then using the methods that we learned in Audio MIDI 1, when we did the Bartok, right, you can do that and orchestrate from there. That is totally cool, however you want, but just get going and have something for me to listen to by the first draft, which is 2 weeks from today. Any questions? None? You guys got it?
Do we have to use all the instruments?
Well, I didn't use all the instruments on every measure, every beat of every measure. Right? This is the ensemble I want you to write for. It's up to you to determine how much you use each instrument. Right? Did I leave any instrument out? No, I ended up writing a little bit for each instrument. You also notice that the articulations in the strings really helps, right? Where you've got pizzicato, long, and spiccato strings. Using those really helps. And, try to write in dynamics, just using the expression controller. If you want to try, you don't have to do this bit right at the beginning. You can always add that in as you're mixing this, but try to write with expression. And that, remember, we did that in Audio MIDI 1 when we were working on the Bartok, realizing the Bartok. That's why I had you do all that stuff, so you get these skills for when you're composing music later on, right? So doing your dynamics with your short notes and velocity and long notes by automating that expression lane. And then later on, if you want to add more dynamics, you can add the low-pass filter automation, but you don't have to worry about that right at the beginning. But as you're working, try to be mixing at the same time. Doesn't have just get the general shape up there, and then we'll clean it up. Give you feedback. All right.
And then one more question. For the strings, is it a solo strings or is it a section?
Right. So with the Discovery library, it's solo. It's a section. If you have if you want to write for solo strings and you don't want to use Discover, that is fine also. Yeah, if you're going to working in Finale. That was Peter, right?
Correct.
Yes, if you want to use if you want to use that in Finale. I would say that of the notations, it's never good to score a film in notation software, but I think that Sibelius is set up a little bit easier to work with than Finale. That's what I've gotten feedback from with my students that have used Finale. A lot of graduate students, they do their jazz big band charts in Finale, and they were telling me some of the issues they were having with Finale and film scoring. But just do the best you can. All right. That's why having the spotting notes, even if you can't get them into Finale, right, you can figure out where those things are and write to that spot. You know what I mean? If you have it even as a separate PDF and you print it out and you've got it right next to you, you'll have your roadmap right there. All righty. So this will be up either tomorrow or Friday, the review video, if you want to watch this. I'll send a link, because I might send a link for some of the other semesters where I've done this. Maybe I've explained things a little differently that way as well. So this is a big challenge, all right? Just do the best you can. I'm not going to kill you. As long as you get something done and it's all on time and you've worked at it, I'm not going to kill you on your grade. Just work. Try to get something done. I'm throwing you in at the deep end and seeing how you'll swim. Just like my brother-in-law out in Long Island Sound when I was 9 years old. I have sisters who are much older than me. Took me out on his little boat. We were out there hanging out in Long Island Sound, 60 feet depth. And I said, I can't really swim yet. He's like, yes, you can. And he threw me in off the boat. Anyway, I started going down and he jumped in to get me. So that's another story. I'll catch you guys later. Have a great week.